From a territory to a state, Nebraska is celebrating its 150th birthday this year, and KNB Ag will be looking back throughout the year at the farmers, ranchers, technology, and more, which grew the panhandle of Nebraska to what it is today. Snowstorms are typical for Nebraska, but the blizzard of 1949 is considered the worst. The blizzard lasted for almost 3 days across western, central, and northern Nebraska. It had wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour, and the snow piled on top of what had already fallen earlier in the winter. Bob Watt of Alliance remembered the beginning of the blizzard on January 2nd.
In the 49 blizzard, I started out from my residence on the 400 block of Platte Avenue. It would have been the 2nd of January. And I got halfway down, so I turned around and came home. You couldn't see a thing.
People were isolated on farms and ranchers. Ranchers hooked up their horses and pulled sleighs and wagons to get to town or to check on livestock. Bob Wilson, longtime Harrison resident and member of the Sioux County Historical Society, explained what it was like for ranchers.
It stayed cold and it kept snowing and the wind kept blowing, and eventually got the National Guard in here with some big equipment to plow out some roads and to try to get people to their haystacks so they could feed their livestock. There were some aerial drops of like food, medicine, and mail to people that were stranded, isolated, miles away from town. Lots of loss of livestock. It changed a lot of operations that had been thinking you could winter cattle out in the open, and no, you got to be pretty careful. Got to watch the weather. We're very fortunate to have better war.
The railroad was the main artery for communities in 1949, and Watt says it was an effort to move the snowbound trains.
Well, the railroad had a lot of trains that were stuck in snowdrifts, particularly down Highway 2 east of Alliance. 4 freight trains have actually, the snow was so heavy, it actually covered the engine. And of course, in those days, it was steam engines. So the railroad at that time had what they called a rotary snowplow, but they had their own equipment. That was the brute force of people with shovels and everything. I mean, it was a slow process.
Well, many people used wagons or horses to get to town. Lawrence Graber of Hemingford purchased a snowbird to travel around the snow. Rick Myers, a board member of the Legacy of the Plains Museum, said the snowbird was quite an advantage to have around.
The snowbird was made in 48, 49, and actually probably saved lives and saved cattle during the blizzard of 49. It was able to go over fences. It was dive through drifts. It was try to go over ditches and things. And when there wasn't any roads available, they hopped in the snowbird and off they went across the prairie, and the windswept prairie with the huge drifts.
According to the National Weather Service, during the winter of 1948-1949, parts of Nebraska received more than 100 inches of snow. One area in Antelope County had drifts that reached about 30 feet and didn't melt until June. Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Wyoming all suffered through the blizzards. Next week, we'll kick off March and take a look at Dawes County. I'm Chabela Guzman with KNB.TV News, and 150 Years of Nebraska Agriculture is sponsored by Kelly Bean, proud to be a tri-state region tradition for 90 years.